Hello friends, and welcome to Stampin' with Margaret from the She Shed. Today I'm making this lovely stand-up butterfly card using the beautiful butterfly stamps and dies. I'm also using the designer series paper, which is called Blooming Impressions, that came free with the Celebration sale that is just finishing today. If you make an order of up to €70 tonight, you'll be able to pick one of these items free, and it's finishing at 11 p.m. tonight, the 28th of February. So I made this card using all the layers, and as you can see, the base layer is the butterfly that goes over the edge of a card, and you can actually make a double-sided butterfly and make a card that size. But I like to make my cards 5 by 7, so I thought this up as a way of making it, and then with the band at the bottom it will still sit up pretty on your mantelpiece. I have everything cut out, and I have marked all the sizes on the pieces of paper for you, so that I won't be taking time, because the video would be too long if I was going cutting out and all that sort of thing. So the first thing I did was I took the base card, which is my shaded spruce colour, because that's included here in the papers. And again, as I mentioned the last day, on the back of all of the packets of designer series paper, there is a list of all of the different colours that are included in that series of paper. So if you're not sure of the shade of green, you can go to the back of the book and have a look and see what's there. So I have the shaded spruce in a 5 by 7. On top of that, I'm layering the pumpkin pie, and I've cut that down 1/8 of an inch smaller on two sides, so that I get a 1/16 of an inch border, which basically is a tiny little green border around the edge. And what I do then is, I'm using the butterfly and the fold over of the edge, I'm going to seal that to the back here of my peach piece of paper before I actually stick this down. Now I'm also going to use my bone folder to score this down, and I've just noticed there's a tiny little piece of paper peeping up, so I'm going to cut that off at an angle so that it won't show through, and it will mean that the card will look a lot simpler. So I use my Tombow Mono Glue, and again, when you're using this, less is more. You don't need to use much at all, and try not to let it squeeze out over the edge, because this glue stays tacky when exposed to the air, and that means it'll always be sticky. So I'm just centering that up as best I can by eye. You can measure it if you want to, but by eye is enough for me, and sticking it down. And now I'm going to stick this to the green backing sheet. Again, just around the edge. And just allow the little 1/16 of the inch, a little tiny border. Now, if you want, you can decrease by 1/4 inch, which will give you a bigger border every time. But I do like just a little fine little border. I think it's more elegant looking. So this is the Blooming Impressions Celebration paper, and there's just beautiful colours in it, and there's also the back side of it is quite plain and simple, but you could use that to make a more simple card. But I love the bright colours of the pinks and greens together. So this is the third layer going on here, and again I've allowed for tiny little border around the edges. And what I have done here is I've pulled in all the colours that are in the paper onto the butterfly. So the next thing I will do is I'm going to add my base to this. So my first strip of paper is 1 5/8 by 7 inches. The pumpkin pie is 1 1/2 by 6 7/8. Again, going down by the 1/16. I I'll layer this on here with the tiny border. And the thing about the wet glue is you have a couple of seconds that if you don't get it straight the first time, you can lift it and re-stick. Whereas if you're using the tape, it's stuck and it can be very difficult to get it pulled off. But then again, it's only paper. You can always cut another piece. So this is the final border that I have here. I'm going to line this up here along the bottom of my card. And you see that the two tips of the butterfly are going to meet the bottom of the card. So all I'm going to do is put a tiny drop of glue, just a piece here, a little piece here, and making sure that the bottom piece here is level with the bottom of the card. I'm just going to hold that down and it sticks where it is. Now, it will be a bit wobbly for the first few minutes, but when it sets up, it's fine. This is the peach coloured paper that I've used, pumpkin pie, and I've run that through the embossing folder that's also part of this suite. And the dies then will cut out the different shapes of the butterflies, because there are dies to fit this butterfly as well as the large one. So I'm going to stick this down just in the centre, because I always love to leave the butterflies with a little bit of movement in the wings so that they aren't stuck down flat and they just leave movement on the card. I cut out the little body here, and I've just noticed he's a little bit crooked, but I'll just lift him and add more glue. And more glue to the back, and place him there on the centre. And I'm making mine a thank you card, and what I like to do with thank you cards is to leave the inside of the card blank to write your own message, because it's very difficult to have the right message for a thank you card until you know what you're thanking the person for, whether it be a day out or a present or something, gift or something nice they did. Now that's how the butterfly die cuts out. When you cut it, it stays within the card, so that if you wanted to make a butterfly shaped card, you just tip off the two edges here, and if that was the full 6x6, you'd have a card shaped in the shape of the butterfly. But I'm just going to use it as the internal part of the card for you to write. That's going to be hidden behind the front, which means when the card is closed, you won't have big square of white paper to write on. And I also used these lovely designer papers to put it on the background rather than having just a white insert to write on. I just thought that this designer paper is pale enough to be written on, and it'll look pretty nice. So what I do is I'll just line it up here, and before I stick it down, I will move it so that I know it's hidden by my butterfly. I lift this and hold that in place, and just put some of the glue here. And here, and try and keep it as centered as possible so that it doesn't lift up or is not visible when the card is closed. So that is that card. And really the longest part of this card is all of your die cutting. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, as I said, we are stamping with Margaret. There has to be some stamping somewhere on the card. And in this case, it's going to be the sentiment. So in this set, there are lovely different sentiments, but I wanted just to have a nice thank you. So I used one of my punches. That's this lovely shape. And punches are great because they cut the shape straight away. You don't have to have a cutting machine, and you're able to cut repeated amounts very quickly. The cutting machines do all have their own places for die cutting and for if you're using a Cricut for many different sizes. But for basic shapes like labels and circles, I find the punches are very, very good. So this is the sentiment I'm using, which is thank you so much. And I'm using an ink spot. Now this ink spot came free with one of the kits. So it's a great way of building up your colours, that if you buy kits with the stamp and ink, you'll get an ink spot in each one. And before you start investing in the larger stamps, or should I say in the larger ink pads, you can try out the small ones, see how you feel about it. Or like I said the last time, use your markers to colour in your sentiment and then stamp with that. But in this case, with the little ink pad, you can build up a nice little set of them, and you're also building up your blocks, because you get a free block with every stamp set as well that has a stamp and ink on it. And just have my piece cut here and just center it down and press and lift up. Now, if you're there, you're trying to do this and it goes wrong, you have it wonky, you have a smudge, paper always has two sides. So just turn it over and try again. If you're nervous, try it on a piece of scrap paper first, and then you will have, you'll be able to, the more you practice, the easier it gets. So I'm not putting any sponge layers on any of this, any of the dimensionals, because again, that's going to add to your postage if you're posting this to somebody. So I've used a little peach here, which is picking up what's on the inside. And then to make this a little bit fancier than the other one, I'm going to put two little butterflies on the other side to balance. So one here and one here. I have great cause for sending thank you cards at the moment, because while I've been laid up with my broken hip, so many of my friends have been so kind to me, and I'm taking great pleasure in making nice cards to send to them. Now, the final embellishment is put a little bit of bling on this. As I always say, if in doubt, add glitter. So these little sequins were also part of the Stampin' Up! Celebration freebies, and you can use them to add a little bit of glitter to your cards. So all of these colours go with the paper, and you see the way the little pink, they all, when you put them with the colours, they all just pick up some of the colours that are already in the card. So first of all, I'm going to do some of the butterfly to add a little bit of colour to his body. And this is the Stampin' Up! Pick tool, which helps you to pick up sequins. It has a sticky end on it, and you can pick up sequins and stones with it, and it really makes it very easy, especially with fiddly things if you've got bad hands like me. So I'm just adding all of those peachy ones to him there, and I think I'll put a few of the little pink ones on the little guys down here. Just two will be enough on each one. And then I'm going to go the extra mile, as there is a little bit of space here, and I'll just put 3 of the green ones on here, one in the center and a small one on each side. And the other beautiful thing about the sequins is they don't add bulk like the pearls do. They don't catch in the envelope and cause problems going through the post office. So there you go. With the beautiful butterflies, you've made a lovely 3D standing card that will look lovely sitting on the mantelpiece. Has a little bit of a lift to it, and you can write your little greeting or your thank you in here. And using the coloured card instead of the white just makes a little difference. Even though they're the same card, they look quite different because of the different papers that have been used in the making. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope to make more videos and get more ideas for you using all of the new items that are coming out regularly with Stampin' Up! And I think the next day I will use a kit and introduce you to how the kits work. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you will like and share my video if you've enjoyed it, and tell your friends about all the wonderful things you can do with Stampin' Up. So goodbye from the She Shed, and I'll see you all again soon. Thank you.